Charlotte McLeod with the Investing News Network, and I'm here today with James Kwantes, editor of Resource Opportunities. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Hi, Charlotte. Thanks for having me.
Of course. And we're here at VRAC. It's the beginning of the year. We're going to start with a broad question. How are you feeling about the resource space as a whole right now? Brand new year.
Yeah, brand new year, but the pain of the last few years still lingers. Last year was a pretty terrible year, with a few exceptions. But actually, for that reason, I'm kind of optimistic about this year because, these things are cyclical and it's going to come, the upcycle is going to come.
Yeah.
So I'm positive on gold, I think, is, setting up nicely, like for this year specifically. And the base metal case, remains bullish too, I think. On the macro side, so.
Yeah, and we've already had some big news in gold this year. We had last week the Newmont Gold Corp deal. What were your thoughts on that? Do you think M&A is a trend we'll see moving forward?
Yeah, it's hard to read.
Right.
There wasn't much of a reaction to the gold to the gold mergers. I think it was overdue. And there's still issues with the gold producing, I guess, Canadian gold producers. Again, there's some exceptions, but it's been a kind of a terrible investment over the last few years. Australians have done a lot better at it, for example. So we'll see if this makes any difference. These two deals involving Barrick and Goldcorp, like the two biggest Canadian gold miners. I think it's a bit of a headwind for the juniors, like in the short term, because there's fewer companies that can take over. An exit strategy for these junior explorers that can create some great shareholder value. So one of the things I do with my letter is I try to build it like I have drill plays and companies that I think will get taken over.
Sure.
But then I also cover other sort of more things that could be described as businesses that aren't relying on that big exit strategy selling out to a major.
Okay, so some movement in gold price this year and potentially some upside for the gold stocks as well. Yes.
Yeah, and some of it, a lot of things haven't moved, but like a couple of the companies that I cover in the portfolio got so ridiculously cheap in December.
Right.
One of them's actually doubled since December, and the other one's come up about 50%. But then a lot of them have not done anything, so there's still some value out there.
Yeah, when we talked last summer, one theme you mentioned was the disconnect between company share prices and the value that they actually represent. So would you say that's an ongoing thing that we see?
Yeah, I think so. And of course it happens on both ends, although we haven't seen it on the other end that often. Yes. But I guess one example that comes to mind is Evrim Resources, which is a project generator, had a really promising very high gold grades in the trenches. But the drill program was a bit of a bust, and so the stock really got hammered. But now there's a lot of value under the hood on that one, and the share price hasn't really recovered from where it dropped to. So that's an example of like a solid company that looks pretty cheap to me right now.
Okay. So you talked about some areas where you see opportunities for investors to make money right now. Any other specific commodities or companies you would mention people should be aware of this year?
Yeah. Electrification, is obviously continues to be a big theme. And a lot of things have gotten buzz, cobalt, vanadium, a lot of those important commodities for that, but other ones have not. And one example is tin. Which is very important as a solder for all kinds of any electronic gadget, iPhones, cell phones, etc. So tin, and there's limited opportunities to invest in tin as well. So I cover like a tin play that's trying to revive the South Crofty tin project in Cornwall, UK. The company's Strongbow. It's Brent Thomas is the chairman, and they actually have some exposure to West Haven as well through shares and a royalty. So that's kind of an interesting sum of the parts story too. They have that royalty exposure to West Haven, a really promising gold play, but they also have the tin project that they're moving forward on.
That's great.
But again, that's one that patience required. The stock's almost at all-time lows, and they're working on getting an AIM listing in the first half of the year, I think. So.
You mentioned electrification. That's something that we've definitely been talking about a lot. And one question that comes up a lot is what makes a battery metal? Which ones fall under that category? What are your thoughts on that? It's a tricky
Well, I mean,
one.
there's I mean, there's the the obvious ones: lithium, cobalt, vanadium,
Of course.
things like that. But obviously, copper, electric. I mean, I think a Tesla has, I can't remember the stat, but several times more copper than a regular car. I cover a graphene company. One of the things I try to do with the letter is cover companies that nobody else covers. And one of them is this little graphene company that it actually has a market cap of about $140 million, several hundred employees. An alliance with an auto parts company called Martinray for lightweighting. So graphene is very new. This company has an early lead in what I think will be a very large sector. The company is pretty invisible. The stock hardly trades, even with that market cap. But they're also working on battery technologies. Like, there's a role for graphene in so many different applications. It's one of the things that attracted me to it, and battery is one as well.
Right.
So as far as stabilizing some of the other more unstable elements like lithium, and I think graphene will play a role in that in the future as well. So it's changing so quickly.
Yes,
The battery
definitely.
technology, right? So it's hard to say what will sort of come out ahead. Yeah.
Okay, so those are some of the things you're positive on, but let's turn it around for a second. Is there anything you're looking at this year that you're thinking, nope, not that metal, not going into that space?
I don't know. Uranium is one of those. I mean, I guess I'm a long-term uranium bull, but it's been down for longer than almost any other commodity, and every year this is going to be the year. So I cover one uranium name, which is NextGen. I think they have a great deposit. That'll be bought by somebody, but so I guess I'd avoid other uranium names.
Okay.
Even though they probably will move. But I'm sticking with what I think is the best deposit, highest quality, highest grade.
What do you think of all the uranium companies that have come forward recently saying, kind of identifying their vanadium potential?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm always a little skeptical when companies kind of shift around. And this year we're like a uranium company. Oh, now we're a vanadium company. And you saw with the marijuana, these junior mining companies sort of shift around. In blockchain, I tend to avoid those types of companies. It's painting with a bit of a broad brush, but to me, when a company's doing that, it's probably, the chances are high it's a lifestyle company, and just keep the lights on, keep the paychecks coming. But I don't know what of value they would be able to create for shareholders.
Sure. As we're wrapping up, can you share one tip that you would leave investors with for the coming year? Best tip.
Yeah, just again, what I focus on. So Lawrence Rolston, who I took the newsletter over from, is a geologist. My background is journalism. So what I do is I try to follow the people, follow the best people, people with integrity who get things done and create shareholder value. And that's kind of my mantra for the newsletter. Yeah, and I do have a newsletter special. If you use the code CEO when you sign up for Resource Opportunities, $100 off the 1 year and the 2 year subscription price.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you so much. We'll leave it there. Once again, I'm Charlotte McLeod with the Investing Biz Network, and this is James Kwantes with Resource Opportunities.